Let's suppose we live in the time of a global pandemic, with many businesses closed until further notice. Let's also suppose we live in a town hit by its worst flood in 61 years, and that flood damages our car beyond repair. Let's further suppose the only car rental business in our city, which has about 40,000 people, is closed because of that pandemic, and the places we need to visit in order to pay our bills are at least a 6-mile round trip on foot. On top of all this, let's further suppose these events coincide when we just have begun to recover from an 11-week medical problem that made walking difficult and even painful. In my own case, I didn't have to suppose any of this. I was reduced to traveling on foot for a month. To take care of errands during that month, I walked multiple trips totaling 41 miles. Now that it's all over, and it's over because I finally got another car, I would say overall that experience was a good thing. It was a good thing because it taught me a new thing or two about getting in shape and staying in shape for long-distance backpacking. As I said in an earlier video, I'm convinced the best things we as long-distance backpackers can do for ourselves is to keep walking year-round. The link to that video is in the description. But now I can add some extra details. None of this, however, means the experience was fun or enjoyable, at least in the beginning. That medical problem I mentioned was a sciatica attack that hit me more than 2 months before the flood destroyed my car. I had experienced sciatica more than 20 years earlier, and it wasn't too bad. This time, however, it was very bad, at least in the beginning. I had to use crutches for a couple of days before I moved on to a cane. Like I said, 11 weeks later it cleared up, but as far as the walking went, the big detail is that sciatica left me badly out of shape. Before I started walking, I checked to see how much business I could do online. For several reasons, I couldn't do everything online. Okay, fine, I'd have to walk. At least I was well acquainted with the concept. Before I got started, I decided to treat each trip like a hike. I wore the same clothes and shoes I had used on my last AT hike. I carried my original AT fanny pack. I carried a small backpack to carry my mail and anything I might buy. I took a hiking pole in case I had to walk on damp grass or uneven ground, and in case the sciatica came back. I also carried a liter of water. I didn't expect things to go smoothly, and it's a good thing I didn't. The first trip made it very clear that I was a physical mess. My feet, ankles, and lower legs were as stiff as a board, and they were really sore. And I was slow. This reminded me of an experience I described in an earlier video. Before one section hike, I got the bright idea to limit training to riding a bicycle and running uphill. It didn't work. What I found out was I got to the AT and my feet, ankles, and calves could not stand the test. I've talked in plenty of other videos about the challenge of dealing with the AT's hills and the untold millions of rocks right on the trail. Yet, if we don't have the ability to walk hard and fast on level ground, we lack a real advantage that helps us deal with those hills and rocks. My second trip was probably worse than the first. It reminded me of a really bad day on the AT when all I wanted to do was stop walking. Halfway home, the last thing on earth I wanted to do was take one more step. But this time there could be no stopping. So how many miles did it take to put a stop to such misery? After 20 miles, my legs and feet started to feel much better. After 30 miles, I was moving considerably faster. After 40 miles, I felt like I was back to my old self. So if someone would ask me today how many miles of walking it takes to get ready for the AT, I'd say 40 miles is a good start. We don't have to limit ourselves to 40 miles, however. Emma Gatewood, who started her thru-hike at age 67 in 1955, walked 10 miles daily before she left Ohio for the AT. There's no way to predict how well anyone of any age is physically prepared for what the AT will throw at them. But statistically speaking, somebody under 30 years old and in good shape is less prone to physical problems on the AT. But I would remind anyone the northbound thru-hiker success rate was 19% for 2017 and 2018, and that percentage has been falling since 2012. See the link in the description for more on that. This entire pandemic experience also clarified my thinking on another issue. Previously, I wanted to do all of my training-related walking in the woods. I have several parks close enough to allow that, but taking the time to drive to one of those parks is never as convenient as just heading out my front door. The town I live in has a number of nice biking and walking trails. Their only disadvantage is none of them runs from my neighborhood to the downtown, where I had to travel to the post office and the bank. But the trails in my neighborhood are nice. They're certainly good enough for taking a walk between 2 and 4 miles. Taking a walk like that under the summer sun isn't as nice as the parks where the trees are, but things cool off considerably by early evening, and that's when I've been taking regular walks since I got my new car, and I plan to make that a permanent activity. I don't know if I'll make a section hike in 2020, but I plan to be ready regardless. I couldn't section hike in 2019 because I took on a lot more freelance writing that requires me to be readily available. It's a way to make money, what else can I say? But it did affect my morale, which is another thing I've talked about before. And that helps explain why I haven't posted a video in over a year. I have, however, kept posting on my Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, I suggest you check it out. And what else do I always do? I always say, now we're done. Thanks a million for watching, and a special thanks to my subscribers who have stayed with the channel.